Well, welcome to this monthly edition of Shively and Shoulders. We're great to have you with us, and we have a very special guest, Pat.
We do, Your Honor, and if I might, let me barge through the entrance of Shively and Shoulders and tell you that we have a veritable festival for the senses today. The first show to ever do a Winnecke retrospective.
Absolutely. And it won't be boring.
It will not be boring. We could talk about, I don't know, a past president's third indictment. We could even go to the fact that Indiana now ranks 7th in the worst place to live after Republican rule for 20 years. But I think we should reserve what minutes we have for his honor.
And also,
and your honor.
A little time.
And his honor.
For the fact
Everybody's honorable.
that the Democratic Party no longer exists in this state.
That's
and
true.
It needs a transfusion, so to speak.
Well, we just saw those ratings, and the state is one of the best in the country for business. That is, if you own a business. But if you're working folks, not so good.
Well, on that happy note, we got a lot to be proud of right here in this community.
We do.
And when we have the mayor on here in a moment, I want to kind of go back to his administration because a lot of good things have happened. And you talk about politics. This is one elected official that has risen above politics. His entire term, his own party never controlled the city council. I think I'm correct on that.
I think
and
that
yet,
might be right.
Through his talent and ability to friendly persuade those members of the council, he got the job done and was admired by those folks. Always has been.
He shows that there are exceptions to every rule. There are a few good Republicans. Stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, there are but 146 days left in the LLoyd Winnecke administration. It is an appropriate time to look back, to look forward, and to feature as our guest tonight on Shively and Shoulders, His Honor, the Mayor of the City of Evansville, LLoyd Winnecke. Welcome, Your Honor.
Thank you. Good to be here. Appreciate you having me.
Well, it's something we look forward to doing, and we finally met our schedule with your schedule. It works
Absolutely.
out.
Let's start at the end. Why the hell didn't you run again?
First of all, 12 years is a long time to do any job, but this job in particular, it's 24/7 crisis management, it seems like. The police chief or the fire chief or the utility director rarely call you to see how your day's going. We've accomplished a lot, and I feel like there are people in this line of work who sometimes stay longer than they need, and I didn't want to be one of those people. I wanted to leave on my terms when I felt like it just felt like the time was right.
You're a relative young man. You could have set a record, I believe, in the history of the city by a 4th term, correct?
I could have, yes.
Are you going to retire, or is there something else in
No.
the offing? And if so, tell us.
Well, I can't say what it is. We're working on something as we speak, but I would hope, by sometime, by the 1st of October, we'll be able to announce what that is. But I'm not going to retire. I've seen all the Law and Order reruns that I need to see, so I won't be sitting at home. But no, we'll be working somewhere, hopefully the 1st or 2nd week in January.
Well, Judge, I guess we should walk down memory lane.
Speaking of accomplishments, and you have many during your 12 years, in your opinion, what was your greatest accomplishment as mayor?
I get asked this a lot, aside from what I'm doing next. So I think there are 2 things I'm really most proud of. One is a brick and mortar project, and that's the medical school. The fact that we were able to bring graduate and undergraduate students together on one campus to help build a new pipeline of healthcare professionals is unique. That kind of model does not happen very many places. A number of us went to Grand Rapids, Michigan in April of 2012. We barely knew where the restrooms were in the Civic Center when we went up there, and we saw what their medical mile is like, and it's very similar. It's multiple healthcare institutions, it's multiple higher educational institutions collaborating to build graduate and undergraduate medical education. So the fact that we were able to get the IU School of Medicine, the University of Evansville, and the University of Southern Indiana, Deaconess Health System, and Ascension St. Vincent together is really pretty phenomenal, because that's literally what they're doing on that campus, is building a new pipeline of healthcare professionals. So that is right up there. The other thing is a little more difficult to put your arms around, and that's how it is. That is, I think as a community, we come together and collaborate probably better than just about any city in Indiana. And I just think that's one of those rare things. And people say, oh, we use the word collaboration a lot, but literally, we're calling people every day asking for help on something. Maybe it's in the space of mental health, maybe it has to do with a Board of Works kind of project, but in the first week in office, if not sooner, well, first day in office, you have people saying, hey, if there's anything I can do to help you, let me know. Well, you figure out that you need all those people and more to help you. And I think we've been better than average at getting a lot of people together at a table, no matter the issue, to figure things out. So it's that level of collaboration and then the medical school campus. And there's a whole litany of other quality of life projects that I'm very proud of that I think really benefit the region. But those, I think, are the top two.
All right, let's swing in the other end of the pendulum. What's your greatest disappointment?
Probably the fact that we haven't figured out Mesker Amphitheater yet. That is really, there are probably, the other thing you learn is time goes by so quickly, yet it takes forever to get stuff done. So, but that's up there because when we found out right away, sort of the condition of that, when we came in, we decided that it was not safe for people to be in. And we did a study pretty much, I think the first or second year in office, and found that it would take, I think, $10, $11 million to retrofit it and really do it upright, meet ADA standards. We just couldn't find the money. It doesn't sit in a redevelopment district, so you don't have the benefit of a TIF or other tools that you could use. So it's sat out there. We'd love to restore it into a performing arts venue, and I hope one day someone has the time and not the time, but the money. That's really what it boils down to. There are plenty of people who've raised their hand and say, hey, I think I got the solution. We could get a weekend work crew together and do this for a month. Well, it's not that. It takes literally, the concrete in those steps, it's probably that thick.
45 years ago, a young park director named Carol McClintock roped us all in. We formed something called the Evansville Parks Foundation, and its first project was trying to do something about Mesker Amphitheater. So this isn't a problem that you created, that you've inherited. We got it back up to where there were some concerts there, but it was built for a different time.
It's exactly right. If you were to build an amphitheater today, you would not design it that way. It's a great setting, and we certainly, that's one we haven't done anything with it. I figured it was better to let sit than kind of trying to reuse it for something else.
Let's go back to the beginning here, just briefly. What I think is wonderful, and we've been friends for a long time, our children have been in each other's weddings, that sort of thing. But you're an Evansville boy, Stringtown Elementary, Evansville Public Schools, Evansville High School, correct?
Yes.
Why did you decide, you'd been in the media, then you were in county government, why the mayor's office?
If Mayor Weinzapfel had run for a third term, I would never have run for mayor. That's how much respect I have for him and had for him at the time. I was working at Fifth Third Bank, and I was on the county as a county commissioner. And when the mayor announced that he was not going to run again, there was a lot of encouragement, pressure, cajoling, you name it, for me to run. And because I never grew up, I never had aspirations to be mayor ever. So it took me a while to get there. And I will tell you, looking back, my parents hated the idea. They were both still alive at the time, and they were like, "Lloyd, you don't want to do this. We don't want you to do this." Then after we won, oh my gosh, they wouldn't take off their Winnecke for Mayor T-shirts. But it took a while for me to get there. But had Jonathan run again, I may never have run for mayor ever.
Let me ask you this. This is maybe not one of the most exciting things to talk about, but it's an important thing to talk about. Where will you be leaving the city in terms of its fiscal condition?
We think strong. Every budget that we present to the city council is a balanced budget. The State Board of Accounts goes through our books as they do all second-class cities on an annual basis. So I have no doubt that we'll be in good fiscal condition. Now, having said that, there are pressures on it. Property tax caps. If you own property, you love property tax caps. But if you're in the business of trying to run municipal government, it's a real hindrance because there's probably $12 to $15 million less in revenue that we have today that we would have in place if it were not for property taxes. And that becomes really difficult when you're trying to run a government and maintain talent. We're like every other business. We have trouble keeping people in all kinds of positions, which means we have to pay more to attract talent of any kind at any level. So, to offer more pay raises for police, fire, for city garage operators, or city garage personnel, for bus drivers, all that takes more money. So that will be the big pressure. And it'd be a pressure for us if we were running again.
Right. You win your first election, as I remember. Rick Davis,
yes.
A divided, somewhat Democratic party, still a Democratic town. You win that first election, and I couldn't agree with you more. I enjoy seeing that IU flag flying downtown. But your administration got off on a great footing, it seems to me, by all of the ideas to bring back downtown Evansville. We tried. Well, Jonathan built the stadium down there. Russ Lloyd was going to put baseball down here. Vanderveer put trolleys and took traffic off. We've tried to come up with ideas to make a vibrant downtown. No great city anywhere doesn't have a vibrant downtown. But I don't think we're done there, are we? I mean,
we're
what
not
you can
done.
Disclose and what you can't disclose. But
No.
I think one of your greatest achievements, it's just a beginning.
Yeah, it's really the foundation, and to give credit where credit is fairly due, Mayor Weinsappel building the arena, in my mind, that was the place for it to go, downtown Evansville. That was the first leg of the stool, and frankly, this is a stool with a lot of legs. The convention hotel is next, what's happening on the medical school campus, and I would hope that by the time we leave office in December, we'll have other announcements about more growth on the medical school campus. So I think what the medical school has done, and all the USI and U of E being involved in that campus with the IU School of Medicine, it's brought more people, more investment to downtown. I think 50 or 60 businesses, something like that, at last count, that have opened over the years since it's opened in and around Main Street and around the medical school campus. People have a great confidence in downtown. If you come to a concert in downtown Evansville and you don't have a reservation at a restaurant, you may not get to eat. You may be having a hot dog at the Ford Center, which is not the worst thing in the world, but so there is more to come. I feel relatively confident we'll be able to announce things, and there are lots of projects that we have going on that will never get done by 12/31/23 that my successor will be able to cut a ribbon on.
I think a unique aspect of your administration is your not so silent partner, your wife, Carol. And you two are really a team. I mean, she's as involved as you are in this community, and Carol has been very instrumental. Oh, we mentioned her background with the Parks Board, and she's been very much involved in a lot of these projects. It's hard to say in your job that you can't take it home with you, but you do.
Well, yeah, exactly, and you're right. I mean, I couldn't do what I have done in 12 years without her support and love. You don't do this. I mean, it's intense work. A lot of it's fun. Going to the Germania Manicore to tap the keg is
Picture today's paper.
Is not heavy lifting. I don't have to lift the keg, but there are a lot of fun things about it. But you're right. Carol has been there every step of the way. A lot of the things we've done are public-private partnerships. I mean, we're asking people from the private sector to come along and help fund things that government can't fund alone. And Carol, aside from being an outstanding real estate agent, is a great fundraiser. So she's able to help raise money for the zoo or
It's hard to say no
the
to
nature
Carol.
center.
Absolutely.
If you look at what's happened at the zoo alone in the time we've been in office, we have the Engelbrecht Family Carousel, we have the Budgie Aviary, we have the Kinney Family Penguins of Patagonia exhibit.
You even named the new penguin.
We even named the new penguin. We raised money off of that.
You and I are downtown residents now, and before we leave the beautiful development in the downtown and maybe talk about, I don't know, parks where Robert Stadium was and that sort of thing, there is this sort of big, empty torn down space in the middle of downtown. I used to practice law in a building that was there at one time. Anything you can tell us
Yeah,
about
so
that?
the Fifth and Main project, so a lot of things happened there that delayed it. One of which was the economy going really sour, and the construction costs went up, the interest rate environment got really wacky. We changed developers midstream, and so a lot of things kind of delayed that. But the construction documents on the new development will be done, we believe, by the end of August, which means it should go out for bid in the September, October timeframe. If bids come back, as well as, in a way that we like, that are favorable, I think we ought to be able to break ground on that project November or December. Certainly it's a focus and goal of everyone involved to break ground before we get done on December 31st. So that will be about 150 apartments on Main and 6th Street with first floor restaurant space overlooking Main Street, and then a park at 4th and Main. So we feel very confident that we'll be able to break ground there.
And apartments, not condos.
Apartments.
Apartments.
Yes.
Going to have a grocery down there sooner or later. Bardstown does a great job.
The Bardstown folks do a great job, and they fit a lot of needs, but we'll see.
Fresh produce,
You're right.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
No, the Bardstown, they're some of my favorite people.
Pickleball. I thought it was a no-brainer. It's popular, but it turned out to be a very controversial move by your administration.
Everything is controversial.
But here again, how did you finally, maybe you haven't put it all to rest, but how did you finally get some consensus to get it done?
Well, at the end of the day, there can't be consensus on everything,
Right.
and there are certainly people who don't want those pickleball courts there that do not agree with the decision that we ultimately made. But we chose to go there because we felt like there were natural synergies to put pickleball courts on an open green piece of land that's adjacent to tennis courts. The tennis community had agreed to help coordinate the management of that. We just thought it was a practical way to go about it. We listened to opponents for a good while. They got their say. There were some changes that were made as a result of some of their feedback. Ultimately, they wanted no pickleball courts there, but at the end of the day, we had to make a decision to move forward, and that's what we have done. Those are under construction. They should probably be done sometime in the first quarter, I'd guess, of the new year.
Well, now, while we're there at the park, and I grew up 2 blocks from there, and this whole town revolved around Roberts Stadium. It's down. The golf course is gone. What's going on that green space?
So a lot of really exciting stuff. First of all, the city is committed to, we've deeded the land of the old Par 3 golf course to the Nature Center. So that will be reforested. So that's 35 or 36 acres just of the old golf course. So in the next couple of years, the Westmoreland team will start planting trees there. So in 100 years, the Nature Center will be even larger than what it is.
Les will not be around to see that.
We're designing the design for the new entrance into Westman Park, right on Winnecke, is about done. We're going to build a new access road from the old Division Street that runs in front of the National Guard Armory and the
Hartke Pool.
That'll actually wind through the park itself and come out onto Franklin Street. That will go out to bid this year. So we have a new playground that we have money for that will start to be done or purchased relatively soon. The way things are going, it just takes forever to get things ordered. If you place an order today for a lot of things, it may be, in this case, I think it's going to be sometime in the first quarter before the playground equipment's there. But all that is in the works. We always had the vision that Roberts Park would be done over a number of years, just for budgetary reasons alone.
There was a dog thing, wasn't there?
The dog park will be built on the other side of the expressway on the state hospital grounds on city-owned land.
Got it. But
Mayor,
that's going to happen.
Yes.
Good.
You have really, again, been successful because how nonpartisan you've been able to extend the hand to the other side. Not all Republicans in public office, whether they're able to do it or not, aren't doing it. With that sort of setup, where do you see the future of the Republican Party?
Oh my gosh, I'm terrible at that stuff. If you think that's a cop-out, perhaps a little bit. You know, I think there are a couple ways to answer that. First of all, in local government, I mean city and county government, I don't think people have the expectation of roadblocks. They expect that their mayor and their city council and their commissioners and the county council to get along to the extent that progress can be made. We don't think, I think as a whole, I don't think we have that same expectation at a federal or national level. We just think of DC and we think gridlock, and whether we like it or not, we accept it. But in local government, that's not the case. So I think we've been able to use that mentality. And as mayor, I don't think I should have to have all the great ideas. But when someone else comes along and has a great idea, I think it's a responsibility of the mayor to figure out how to get that done. And I think we've been better than average at working with councils, even when councils were not all that friendly to us, to get stuff done. But when we bring projects to a council that benefit not just Evansville, but the greater Evansville region, it's difficult for councils to vote no.
Right.
And when they have, and candidly, we've gotten done practically everything we wanted to get done. The convention hotel is not as large as we'd like. There are some amenities it doesn't have, but we have a convention hotel.
Right.
But we've tried to be as inclusive as possible in discussions with council members. The council we're dealing with now is very constructive, easy to talk to, very understanding in what our goals are. They align for the most part with the council's goals. So it's been fairly easy.
You've talked in terms of local and national, but next year we also have a race for governor and many legislative seats as well. At the state level, where do you see the Republican Party, and who do you see as the next governor?
Well, I certainly think the Lieutenant Governor, Suzanne Crouch, should be the next governor, and she'll be a great lieutenant governor. It's a somewhat crowded field. I think it's anyone's race at this point, but I think ultimately the lieutenant governor has proven that she can act as I have across party lines and be able to get things done. I think she has deep relationships in all 92 counties that will really, within the party, that will really help her in a primary. It's not a cakewalk by any means, but I think she has that as an advantage, and I think she'd be a great governor.
And she even joined the elevator to the bottom last week with her breastfeeding, chest feeding comments. But in any event, so that we're not accused of having too great of a love fest here, and before we leave Evansville, there was recently a campaign of those that would wish to succeed you, and I believe, I don't remember the context, but that there were at least claims that perhaps crime is a issue in the city of Evansville, that the Winnecke administration has not focused enough on law enforcement and the crime statistics. And your rebuttal to that would be?
Well, first of all, I would say crime is an issue everywhere, not just at Evansville, but if you look at the number of homicides that have been committed so far this year, and the number is down dramatically. We've spent a lot of time, money, and energy to bring together what are called shooting review teams. After every shooting, especially in which gang or group activity, group violence is suspected, officers get together and exchange every bit of minutia that they can exchange with each other. And then as part of that, so that way they identify who's involved with crime, especially violent crime. We know that a very small percentage of violent crime is committed by violent crimes is committed by a very small percentage of people. But the other thing that happens is we get together and have these interventions. So members of the police department, members of nonprofit groups sit down with suspected gang or group violence members and say, okay, your community needs you alive. We need you to be a part of the community and contributing. We can't have this kind of crime continuing. If it continues, here are the ramifications. Also, here are some pathways to get out of crime. We've had, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head how many of those interventions we've had, but what the police department tells me is that we believe that that is helping reduce the number of violent crimes involving groups or gangs. There's a fair amount of crime that's difficult to prevent. Domestic violence is hard to prevent. We're, like a lot of communities, fighting opioid abuse, and the rise of fentanyl is certainly a challenge, but it is everywhere. I will tell you that we've only increased the police department budgets year over year. They have all the tools. Do they have all the tools they need? I think they have just about. It seems like they have it all. We've invested in flock cameras, which are
Is
able.
it bird watching device?
It's kind of like that, but
Yeah.
it takes if a car goes through an intersection and that license plate is a reported stolen vehicle, they get a ding, and consequently the number of stolen car cases that we've solved is up dramatically year over year. It's easy to sit on the outside and say, hey, this is happening, but at the end of the day, I can guarantee you that the Evansville Police Department is working its tail off to reduce crime, and it's a great department. It's respected across the state. It has the highest level of support that it could have, and it's a really great department.
Two more things. I don't know how much time we have, but I want to hear your comments on economic development. And one of the persons running for mayor talks about wanting to be the school mayor, or the relationship with the schools. Now, I know from the inside that you have a wonderful relationship with our current school superintendent, and I'm not certain what city administration can and can't do other than liaison officers and that thing. But first of all, what grade do you give the Winnecke administration on economic development issues?
Well, I'd give us, I'm kind of a humble guy, so I'll say A-. It's because we live in such a global economy. We are literally competing with communities all over the world. We work hand in hand with the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. We take their leads. We're out promoting the community, the greater Evansville region, in a really, I think, strong way. We've encouraged a lot of expansion. It's tough to get the next Toyota that represents 8, 10, 12,000 jobs in the region with all of its suppliers. So we're out trying to identify what local businesses and what local industries need to expand here. And so I'd give us an A- on that.
In 12 years, jobs have increased.
Jobs have increased, and I think with that comes an increased awareness of Evansville. How we market the community is different today than it was a decade ago or 2 decades ago. Anytime we're out there selling Evansville, we're selling the Evansville region, it helps, it creates a positive impact. And it gives people a greater confidence that they want to invest. Maybe there's a local business owner who's on the fence of, well, do I want to expand or do I want to just continue at this rate? I think we're seeing a lot of people who are making new investments in their community, and it brings new jobs and keeps jobs.
Dovetailing with economic development, education, our public schools. If you don't have strong, good public schools, might as well forget about bringing new industry or new jobs to the area. In this last primary, one of the candidates for mayor basically said, if you want to get a good education, go to Warwick County, totally dissing our school corporation. You want to respond to that?
Yeah, I couldn't disagree strongly enough. I'm a product of the Evansville public school system.
All three of us.
At Stringtown Tompkins Central High School. I believe with all my soul that what I got from the EVSC gave me the tools to be a successful adult. I think as mayor, the best thing, let me rephrase, the best thing I think a mayor could do is partner with schools and be a cheerleader for our schools. When I go to and I've been to every school multiple times, but part of my message is that any student I talk to could be the mayor. They could be a lawyer or a judge. And I think students need to understand that they can do and be anything they want. And when they see people who are products of the EVSC being successful, that's got to be encouraging for them. And frankly, that's one of the best parts of being mayor is being out in the schools. I mean, it's just amazing. I was in the Really Big Show back in February, and there were two young ladies, freshman and sophomore, I think, in high school, and they were going to do a hula hoop routine. And this young girl goes, or one young lady says, "Oh, Mayor, you read at my school." And, or she goes, "You spoke at my school." And she goes, "What?" I said, "What school?" She goes, "Fairlawn." I said, "Oh, I read a book to your class, didn't I?" She goes, "Yes." I said, "How old were you?" She goes, "I was in the 3rd grade." But, it's creating, it's not me, but it's important when a mayor, whoever the mayor is, be involved in schools, because it's a big deal when a mayor carves out a little time, whether it's reading to a 3rd grade class or doing a career presentation at Central High School. That's a big deal.
You're talking about going to the schools and being in the community. Tell the audience what a typical day in the life of the mayor is like.
Well, there's no typical day. My calendar's laid out, and I would tell you that time management is the most challenging parts of being mayor, because you have your calendar all before you, and then 4 things happen before 10 a.m. that have.
And you got to do big time television.
And you have to come over and do this. I mean, this is, I prepared all morning for this.
Yeah. Sure you
so
did.
There's no typical day. Tomorrow I'm going to the Boy Scouts Distinguished Citizen Breakfast. Then I'm driving to Indianapolis for a meeting with the governor. And I'm turn around and driving home. And then I have a 7:30 meeting on some personnel issues in the office. So there's no typical day, because as soon as you think there's a typical day, something happens and you get all discombobulated.
In our last few minutes, I was going to say, since you're not going to be mayor, we're not going to say goodbye, LLoyd Winnecke. You're going to, I assume, still be here, still be available. You don't have to tell us what job, but tell us what your thoughts are as you become a elder statesman in the Vanderburgh County area.
Well, I can't say, it's not nailed down for sure what I'm doing, but I know what I'm working on, and if it pans out the way I hope it does, I'll be in a visible leadership role in the community, and that excites me. I don't know, last week I got to do a lot of lasts. I tapped the keg at the Manor Corps for the last time.
The last time as mayor.
The last time as mayor, touche. So it's kind of funny. Every once in a while, I get a little a little emotional about it.
Nostalgic.
Yeah, nostalgic, and it sounds trite to say it's been the honor of a lifetime, but it's been the honor of a lifetime.
That, sure.
It's been easily the most rewarding work I've ever done. It's the hardest work I've ever done, and I'm totally at peace with not being mayor, totally at peace with it, and eager for a new chapter in my life, eager for someone younger with a different way to look at the world to come in and follow in our footsteps. We think we've laid a nice foundation, as Mayor Weinzaffel laid a nice foundation for us. And it's kind of mixed feelings.
And you'll be available to counsel, cajole, volunteer, etc.
I will. Frank McDonald gave me, I have told many people this, but after my first election, Frank McDonald told me that he would never call me and offer me advice, but he would always take my call if I wanted to. And I thought that was really sage advice.
And then after he became mayor, he moved in Indianapolis.
But I will certainly be cognizant of trying not to overshadow my successor, and I'm confident that whoever wins will be a fine mayor and continue on a lot of great traditions.
It's a job that requires 24/7. About half the city's mad at you all the time. We don't want to pay you what the equivalent would be in the private sector to run a multi-billion-dollar corporation, and many times it's thankless. And you have conducted yourself in that office with the highest integrity, with the greatest enthusiasm for the city, and I believe, as a Democrat, we owe Mayor Lloyd Winnecke a great debt of gratitude.
Ditto.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Thanks
you.
for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
When we come back, I'll take one more shot at Patrick. Don't go away. Well, Pat, I don't know about you, it was a real honor to have the mayor with us today.
Well, it was, and I think this is really, I've said this sort of humorous, but I believe this is the first of many shows and many articles that will talk about the success that was the Winnecke administration. I think our city has progressed. I know a little bit about his work from the inside on the IU Med Center. It set a tone that was positive from the beginning, and he continued to follow through.
The most amazing thing is his ability to reach to the other side. And he never engaged in petty, partisan politics. It was a city first and everything else second.
Well, and the evidence of that is in the recent mayoral primaries, it wasn't the other side making shots about the Winnecke administration. It was one of a splinter group within your party. Well, you don't have a party anymore, but your old party.
Let's talk about who doesn't have a party. At least we have some action. People are at least breathing and thriving, and at least have enough people involved that we can have disagreements.
That's exactly right. And those disagreements are always featured right here on Shively and Shoulders. If you don't tune into this show and the one next month, you're a loser.
See you then. Take care.